I was watching SmackDown and getting angry at it.
You were watching SmackDown? I'm surprised you were watching SmackDown.
Well, I record SmackDown and Raw every week, and then like I usually just fast forward until I see something that's interesting, or like I'll usually read about it first and then be like, okay, cool, let me go into this. I think it's cool that the Becky thing happened that we talked about.
Wait, okay. I know this is going to be really late by the time the podcast comes out, but what are your thoughts about the Kevin Owens thing?
Oh, where he said he quits?
Yeah.
It,
That was like, good.
it depends where it leads. I think it could be really cool. I thought he looked very. First of all, I thought that was a really good match.
Mm-hmm.
It depends where it goes. Like, does this lead to him coming back as a face? Does he end up doing something heely and coming and like winning the belt somehow, or doing some kind of something? Like, it depends on what the planning and direction is for him. I like the idea of anytime WWE does anything that to me looks like long-term booking, I'm a fan of. So
Yeah, well, I mean, this will lead to a Raw match that's called like Loser Leaves Town with him versus Kane or something of that nature.
Or I was thinking something like it's Survivor Series and like he's the last member of Team Raw or something like and wins it, or he comes back as a face and helps somebody or does something like I like this would be a very good long-term booking thing for him if it was like, yeah, like, because when you put it all together in a large scope, he kept getting like quote unquote like picked on by Braun and beaten to shit and all this stuff happened, and then yeah, he loses to Seth in Canada and is like a broken dude, quits. It's all the payoff. Like this, yeah. Is there a sweet payoff in the end where he comes back and does something awesome, or comes back to a huge pop, or is it like he comes back as fucking doink?
No, I just think, I wouldn't be surprised if there's no payoff and it was just for like moment's sake. Just like, oh, how do we
that's what I'm hoping it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to see. I don't know. I just feel like they're going to put sooner rather than later, like this whole next month, they're going to be putting a lot of like eggs in this like all women's, evolution thing. And they're really going to be...
Well, I hope they do, because now the Bellas are back. Gotta throw the fucking Bella. That shit is so... The women's thing has been bothering me for two reasons. Like, one, anytime they do it, they have to, like, bring back the Bellas and Stephanie, because we can't have, like, a women's moment without, like, fucking shilling for Stephanie or shilling for the Bellas as if they're actually good wrestlers, and they're not. Like, they suck. No. And so we got to put. Oh, they're like, oh, some would say.
If Moolah was alive, they'd roll her butt out there.
But it's just
that's just how they are.
I hate it. I hate the shilling nature of it, especially with the Bellas. Like, you get those stupid ass comments. Like, some would say the Bellas were the pioneers of the women's evolution. No, they weren't. Like, they are literally the opposite of what's good about women's wrestling. They suck, and they're just out there because they're attractive. Like, they suck. And then too, like the whole like.
I think they're out there because of
who they're married to.
Well, it's just the I mean, they attract more attention and more like...
Correct, but not because of their talent and because of their ability in the ring, which I'm not saying that's terrible. You don't have to be awesome in the ring to be good at to get attention. It doesn't mean you can't be good at other things, but you cannot at the same time be like, oh, it's all about quality and women's wrestling and this, and then constantly bring out or draw attention to people who suck and cannot wrestle. In the same instance that you can't, I feel like you shouldn't have a women's pay-per-view and talk about women and how important the women are, and then go back to friggin' Saudi Arabia and shill for Saudi Arabia and throw these video packages and do all this stuff to act like it's such a great place and all this and that and oh my god, it's so great. It'd be one thing if they just went there and did it and then like left. I get it. There's a ton of money. It is what it is. But they go and act like it's the land of opportunity, all this stuff. Meanwhile, their women get treated like shit, and they can't put, like, those Saudi women get treated like shit, and the WWE women can't compete on the show. But then we're going to have, like, an all-women's pay-per-view because it's about, like, women and equality. Like, the same way the NFL does that with, like, oh, women's breast cancer awareness or this and that and blah, 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 and then, like, don't really take care of things like that happen to women. I just find it, like, super... But, I mean, I guess that's big business, like, at the end of the day, to some degree. Not to be, like, pessimistic about it. But God, yeah, there's the freaking Bellas, man.
Yeah, you went in a weird direction with that.
It's just the fucking. I don't know. I see them all as like
I
equal.
think it's
not
fine.
equal
I mean,
things, but
see
like
what it's like. Look what
I feel like when you do stuff like that, it takes away from the product or the believability of it, and it's like, oh, okay, you're just doing this for like money, which I feel like I feel like it shouldn't be obvious when you're doing something for the money. You know what I mean? Like, you should at least have a realistic, like, no, we're doing it because of this, but really, we're doing it for the money. Instead, it's just like overtly being like, hey, we're doing it for the money.
To get the most eyes on it, right? Attention wise.
You got Ronda Rousey. You need more eyes?
Yeah, of course. You need as many eyes as you could possibly get.
I feel like they can get enough eyes without having the. But doesn't that take away? If we're just staying on the Bella, like the Bella topic, right? Like, granted, it gets you more eyes and more attention, but doesn't it Doesn't it also detract from the message you're trying to send or the product like you're trying to put out?
No,
like if your product is women's wrestling, you shouldn't have the Bellas.
Okay, so what they did was, I felt like they did this Royal Rumble as kind of like a test sort of case with this idea of a women's pay-per-view in mind. And obviously they were going to bring back, just to fill it out, because obviously it's 30 women, they had to bring back a lot of,
that makes sense.
Nostalgia acts just to see how it would go.
And
I felt like the reception of that went pretty well, and like people like the nostalgia. It's just the same thing, they do on the men's side as well. They just like the nostalgia acts. And
the Royal Rumble is more of a landmark thing. Not that the first women's pay-per-view isn't. I'm going to get that in a second. Like the Royal Rumble is a landmark thing, and it's not necessarily about the wrestling as it is about the moment and the landmark like aspect of it. So I get putting past people in there, people who aren't like exactly like good in the ring or have mental out, because there's certain it's more pageantry, so I get it. But for this pay-per-view, and especially with how they're billing it, like they're calling it Evolution and talking about, now everything is different, the women, it's quality, and we have a women's this and a women's that. And here's the example of it. Here are the Bellas. Like, no. That's like talking to me about how baseball has changed and everything is clean and everybody is honest, and then your poster boy for it is Barry Bonds.
I just think it's fine because it's all about the eyeballs. It's like, it's not...
No, I'm not saying it's not. I just find it so hypocritical and such a money grab. But see, that's the thing. If you're doing it for... I feel like when you do that with the Bellas or something like that, then it becomes obvious that it's an attention grab or a money grab. And I feel like you shouldn't be doing that. We shouldn't be able to look at something and be like, well, it's a money grab. You should be able to be like, wow, this is really good. It's probably bringing in some good coin. But it's like a good thing.
It's not about, everything is based on everything's about the attention. There's a reason why they bring like Hulk Hogan and The Rock and Stone Cold and Triple H to every WrestleMania and stuff.
But there's other things that detract from that. They do this with like Stephanie and the Bellas. Like why was Ronda like? I didn't watch the full segment or really any of it. I just saw but why was Ronda like hugging the Bellas and talking to the Bellas? Like, why do they have to get thrown in there as if they actually meant something to Ronda Rousey? And like they're trying to make it
because that's going to be the main event.
But that shouldn't be. It should be like, if you're billing it as like quote unquote Evolution and like an actual.
Those are going to be the two people that have the biggest like clout. I know, like, I mean, who else would you really get in there? Charlotte's on the other brand, so it's like. And they're going to build to that, I'm sure, to like WrestleMania. But if you want the two people who have the most eyeballs on them, it's going to be Ronda and Nikki. So I don't really understand like why you would go any other way.
Wait, the main event for Evolution is Ronda versus Nikki?
I mean, that's what everyone assumes is going to happen. There's the longer build here. That's why I was like, God. We're here to whatever. They're randomly there to cheer on Ronda, which is like, okay. And at the pay-per-view against Alexa. So it was like, oh, they're going to build this friendship, blah, 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 blah. And then something's going to happen where it's like this, turn or whatever. Or if it ends up being like, something happens and then it ends up being like Ronda and Natty versus the Bellas or something like that, going into maybe like the next pay-per-view or however that goes down. And build, yeah, sorry, and then build to Ronda and Nikki because they have the most eyeballs on them. It's like, as far as the women goes, it's their like Hogan, Austin kind of, at least people have the most, they get the most attention. So,
But I agree that they do, but doesn't it get the people who are going to watch this pay-per-view and go to see it? Aren't they the people who are not gonna? Aren't they the people who are gonna want to see like good women's wrestling? Not
no.
like like, oh yeah, I want to see the bellas in the main event.
No, the event's for the event, man. The first WrestleMania, I mean, Mr. T is not a good wrestler, but he had a ton of eyeballs on him because the A-Team was like awesome, and
wrestling was different back then.
No, but it's the same. It's the same sort of tactic. There's a reason like Lawrence Taylor and Bam Bam Bigelow for some reason headlined it like a WrestleMania.
Well, that's just a 5-star match.
Well, obviously, it's just.
I don't remember that match being terrible as a little kid. I just
no.
I don't remember
it
anything
actually
about it.
like if you watch it back, it's not as bad as it should be.
I also don't remember it being the main event. I would like.
It was the main event, yeah.
I remember you told me, but I could have. I still right now, like I obviously believe you, but I still could I right now would bet money that the main event was Diesel Shawn.
I know.
Did Brett fight on that pay-per-view?
What was that, 12? No, that's not 12, my fault. Was that 11?
Yeah, that's 11, because Brett fought Yoko at 12. He was off 11. No, Brett fought Yoko at 10.
No, 10.
He fought him at 10, was off 11, and then at 12 fought Austin.
No, 12 was Shawn, Anaheim. The belt. 13 was Austin.
But 13 was Austin?
Yeah, 13.
I think I've tried to scrub the Brett Shawn Iron Man match from my memory as if it's never happened.
No, I thought it was great.
Yeah, of course you did, because you're a fucking Shawn Mark.
Yeah, I do like Shawn Michaels, but
still, he lost his smile.
The match was great.
Do you think that match was great? People always shit on it that it like wasn't a good match.
I mean, it was paced very slowly, but I don't know really how else you can do it in an atmosphere where it's a real Iron Man match that actually went like 60 minutes. And
it was the first of its kind.
This is an 18-minute Iron Man match. Like, it's not.
That shit that we hate.
Match. It's not like an hour, like, Broadway that Ric Flair used to do like every single night of the week for years and years. This match is going to
be a 20-minute Iron Man match. It's like, so you mean a regular match?
Like, people right now couldn't deal. Like, I don't think. If you watch it back, it gets worse and worse, I think, to people because of like just society. Because it was 1-0. It's like, tell me another Iron Man match in like WWE that isn't like 8-7.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say the Seth Dolph one was what 30 minutes and it had like 90 falls.
I mean, it had a lot, especially had a lot in a row from Dolph during that like one stretch or whatever, and it was just like sense. Because that's what it is, like bang 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 or quick roll ups or. Blah, 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 blah. It's not these like, it was kind of plotting. It definitely had its moments though, where, you can, the video package wise, you had moments in that match, right. But if you watch it back, yeah, it's an hour match. I mean, I don't like, there's some hour matches that are actually like very exciting, but even the pace of like, say Kenny and Okada in the first like 15 minutes is decently slow for some of those matches.
Those Iron Man matches with Kenny and Okada are like 3 different matches. Like each fall is like a different thing.
Right. And it's not like, the clock's not there, I guess, for them as much. Like it is, they knew how long they were going, but it's not like they don't like press start and the time starts. Right. It's not. It's a different kind of. Because the crowd doesn't know when it's going to end, even though it ends up going an hour,
Right.
Whereas, like,
that's the thing. That's part of it too. Like, not to, pat New Japan on the back, but
oh, really? Not to?
I want, and maybe it's different, or I shouldn't be expecting it, but I want the wrestling or the product to not be blatantly staged. Like, I don't want to watch it and have it all in my face and be like, oh. Well, this is fake, or this is scripted, or, oh, they're doing this for the money. Oh, they're doing this for, like, the whole Nia getting the belt. And it was like, oh, because they're doing the anti-bullying thing, so this is a show for that. Like, New Japan, the wrestling is more like a sport, first. And second, you even said it with yourself, like, that match, like, they don't know when it's going to end, or, like, what's going to happen. I feel like majority of what WWE does, from the wrestling itself to the storylines to a majority of things, like, it's telegraphed, and it's like They do so many things where you're like, oh, okay, this is scripted. Oh, okay, this isn't a real fight. Okay, this isn't a real fight. Like, but
I
shouldn't they
think it
bill
just
themselves as the opposite? Shouldn't
it
you?
just comes back down to the amount of content they have. They've put themselves in a weird situation where they don't really have they don't have like the leeway to be creative because creativity takes like time and planning, and they're basically like walking across coals at all times. At least that's what it seems like. Like, not that they don't think long term or try and like, okay, maybe this, maybe this. And even if you have a good idea there, I'm sure it has to go through like 17 levels of like people, and everyone has to like say yes. So
Well, that's the thing. It's so homogenized and like
it's
just
just it's just
bleh.
hard, man. It's like 3 hours a Monday, 2 hours here, 2 hours there, stuff for the network. All whatever the house shows are just generic, obviously. But um, yeah, I know it goes back to our thinking, whereas like it would still be awesome if it was just like much less pay-per-views. If there was like 6 pay-per-views or something like that, it'd
Right.
be a much better product because now you can have sit down. You could sit down and think about things and like, okay, every single thing, every Saturday night main event, whatever, is like a little step in the right direction. It's not like because now you have a feud, say with really anybody. They'll face like 3 times before their match at a pay-per-view,
Yeah, they'll
and
just
it's
keep wrestling
like
each other.
they'll just keep wrestling each other on Raws and SmackDowns and the House Loop and whatever. And it's just there's no anticipation for a match like that when
And
do that.
and that's what I come back to with, I guess, is the crux of my dislike for WWE at this point. Which kind of, I guess, I use the bells as a jumping off point for that. At the end of the day, we're made to believe, or we're supposed to believe, or they're supposed to make us believe that the two people in the ring are actually like fighting each other. We shouldn't be like,
I
again,
don't think that's what they want anymore.
no, but
I
even
don't think
if
that's it.
that's fine if they don't want that, but isn't that a problem in and of itself? Because shouldn't they want that? Isn't the
No, I
goal
don't think
for
they
us to
want that.
believe that the people in the ring are fighting each other, that this is a real fight?
No, I don't think that's their goals anymore.
So what is their goal? Well, besides like money and profit, obviously, but again, it all revolves around the product is supposed to be good, and we're supposed to believe that these people are fighting each other. Like this is a
No,
real fight happening.
no, I just don't. I don't think they since the kind of the era's turned over, whatever, everyone knows everything now. I just felt like they've gone in a direction where they're like cool with it, and it's like just strictly like entertainment. It's just like it's more, it's less like UFC and more like circus, I guess. Like it's less like, oh, this is like real, like this intense competition. I mean, some things are real about it and stuff, but it's more like, okay, bring out the elephants, bring out the giraffes, bring out the guy who rolls on the ball.
But
All
even
right,
that,
close up
that's
shop and move to
still,
the next town.
but that's still like real though in and of itself. Like even like a magician, that guy's not really pulling a card out of thin air. But if they do it in the right way, you're like, oh, that's cool how they did that. Same thing with New Japan. Like
I mean,
I
they
know New
have their
Japan's
moments.
not a real fight, but it's done in a way that I'm like, that's either very impressive or, oh man, like they made that look like a real thing. Shouldn't that be the goal? That's like a magician making it completely obvious that what he's doing isn't actually magic. Like his goal is to make you think that he like actually has powers or actually can do magic. You know that he can't, but he's supposed to be good enough at his job to make you think that, oh shit, is this guy the devil? Does that guy actually have powers? Oh man, like he's
But
supposed to make you think that, even if he does it for a half a second or a millisecond, he's done his job. And isn't that should be the goal of the
But if he
wrestling
has
product?
if he has a residency in Las Vegas and his show is sold out every single night, whether he has a good show, a mediocre show, or a bad show for 15 years, 20 years, whatever. I mean, can you really like do you think there's really any change coming to that? I mean,
No,
they're like,
but
"Hey, this is
no,
working."
agreed. But isn't the comparison of those two? If you go see a magician show for like a residency at MGM or Vegas or whatever, aren't they going to do stuff that is like, oh shit, that was impressive. It's not going to be like
The
how
first,
a
maybe the
WWE
first,
show
maybe the
is.
first time you see it, but they're gonna perform that show, the same show every single night.
Right, but their stuff is going to be impressive to a degree, and it's going to be. I guess Magic is a little different because if they're doing the same thing, like what's coming. But
No, it's my thing is it's not what they're. It's we're just numb to it. I mean, I don't think we see Seth Rollins do a Phoenix Splash and think twice about it anymore. Whereas like that is like an impressive feat that like very few people can do, like in the world.
yeah,
Like,
I
but
mean, I
we
can do it.
think
But whatever.
absolutely nothing of it. We think of it as like taking as like a headlock nowadays.
Well, that's why
Like,
you and I talked about that
like
in one of the previous
desensitized to
episodes.
any of these moves.
Yes, we talked about that in one of the previous episodes with the cruiserweight stuff, like the stuff the cruiserweights do, main card guys do. Like Roman Reigns can jump over the ropes, Seth Rollins can do a Phoenix Splash. There's like big guys can do a 619. There's no like the stuff that Eddie and Juventud and Mysterio were doing in WCW. Like Kevin Nash wasn't doing that. Scott Hall wasn't doing that. Now it's like, well, the stuff that Cedric Alexander can do, Seth Rollins can do, and honestly can probably do it better.
Also, there might be this kind of thing because these guys are on the road so much and they only have time off when they're injured, which is like crazy.
Yeah, which sucks.
How do you have like when you're just going hotel working out show, how do you have any time to really progress your move set or like even just like YouTubing matches and like stuff? Because at least these guys like I know they like work a lot, but typically you're working Friday night, Saturday, Sunday night, whatever. You have those kind of in between the week. You could practice like your craft and look at other people's matches and like break down stuff and like get better psychology, get better like move sets. Oh, like whoa, did you see what Osprey did or something like that? I wonder if I could do that or try and practice and do that.
Well, those guys,
I don't think any of these guys have any time to do any of that. Like
they probably don't.
Yeah, to like actually practice and improve their craft. They're like, okay, once you get up to the main roster, like your moveset's your moveset, like you or whatever, and it's just like, that's it. I mean, because you just don't have time.
No, you don't have time. And also to your point, where's like the impetus for it and what's the jump? Like if I'm Roman Reigns and they're going to push me no matter what, okay, then I'm just going to keep doing the Superman punch and the spear. Like why do that? I think it's different with like the guys on the indie scene or New Japan because it's more viewed as like a sport and a talent thing, so they're always trying to
and they want to get seen. So
correct.
Obviously, they want to get seen. They want to be like, oh my god, do you see what happened? Like,
yeah, they want to do that crap.
Yeah, that's always been very.
So they have time and they want to. I think with the WWE guys, A, they don't have the time, and B, again, just similar to the product, like we're saying the product sucks, but Vince is selling it for $1 gajillion. Why would he change?
Yeah.
The wrestlers are probably doing the same thing. Like, why do I need to change my moveset? Like, I'm the champ or I'm the this. Like, I think I'm doing pretty well.
Yeah, it's hard because I mean they're obviously doing like very well, but I really think as far as making the product the best you can possibly do it, there needs to be like a little bit of let up on the gas and like.
Well, there would need to be a whole bunch of change.
There would be. Well, I think some of this might come along, but it might come along in the next generation as it would. When presumably Triple H and Stephanie kind of take more of the reins.
When they take over Roman.
Right, exactly. No, but I actually think they would do better to have lesser pay-per-views and
we'll follow the NXT model.
Yeah, and you know what? Being like, that's the thing as well, is like when you like say somebody like the Big Show, right? As compared to Andre. It's like I know like social media didn't exist and stuff like that, but how many times like you could go to any house show and see Big Show perform like anytime you wanted, right? But like Andre, you couldn't. There was like a mystique there or whatever. It's like if you lessen up, you might get more like I don't know, fervor from the fans or more like
it's more of a spectacle.
Yeah, because there's no scarcity in wrestling. It's like all like you can have whatever you want all the time. Like if you want to see this match, this is it's all happened.
It's oversaturated. And again, that goes back to your point of like I'm supposed to care about Rollins versus Ziggler at this pay-per-view, but I just saw him fight 3 weeks in a row on
I
Raw.
know it's hard, and like I just feel like wouldn't it, in my mind, wouldn't it benefit even if you didn't say you didn't uh lessen on the amount of pay-per-views. Say you kept the pay-per-views the same, but you had certainly now they're growing their like roster of people like to a very large amount, and I don't know how far they're going to keep going, but they seem to just pluck anybody they want from the indie scene.
Well, I think they're doing it less for like a product concern and more for like, well, let's just like handicap Ring Honor or New Japan
exactly,
and take their dudes.
exactly. But then you kind of like use that, and like if you're bringing up people, and then they're all kind of going to graduate through your NXT program or whatever, and then if your main roster ends up bloated, sort of like it is now, because people are getting lost in the shuffle, there needs to be some sort of like rotation. Like it's not a bad thing if like Roman Reigns ends up like kind of losing a title, having a few matches, it's like heat him up to slow him down a little bit, you know, like for me it doesn't really, like these guys don't have to go away just because of injury. Like if, you know, say Dean was just out 3 months, just like chilling and like trying to like be better wrestler.
Yes,
and
because they want to do it for the product and for the storyline, but they don't do it for that.
No, I know, but I'm just like, if it got, I know it's kind of a completely, I guess, absurd thought for them, I'm sure, but it's like, because it's just money wise and all this stuff, but it's like, hey, you know, if Seth went away for 3 months and just like recouped, became like, you know, maybe got in like better shape, even though he's in awesome shape, you know, just like got his like, you know, like just got some rest. I mean, when do these guys ever goddamn rest? So it's like
they don't. They
I know.
and
so
that's
like,
I think that's well,
even if it was like a month or two, whatever, short span of time, one pay-per-view, something like that, they would come back, and guess what? You'd get that moment, you get the pop you always want when people come back from injury, and you can insert them in like another storyline. And maybe in that time when he was out, not Seth or Roman specifically, but when you take somebody out that's maybe like a cog to the thing, at least you give some other guys shots at like, hey, okay, you can get a segment on Raw now, or like, you know, and just like put them in the deep water or whatever and see how they kind of float. And guess what? If somebody does well, okay, well then you kind of maybe made somebody, and then by the time Seth or Roman or whoever comes back, maybe they have an opponent, another new opponent now. Whereas like if you keep the same guys in the same spots, how is there any really? There's no circulation. There's no flow. There's no. I don't know.
Well, that's how they built.
It's hard.
I mean, granted, it was there were some variables in that, but that's how. Like Brett went away for a real injury. Austin did his thing. And then the storyline that Brett and Austin came up with was like, all right, cool, Brett comes back and gets inserted into whatever because he's Bret Hart. And then Austin's like, hey, that's bullshit. Like, I've been doing this since you were gone, and you come back and get this. Like, that's whack.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny that, like, injury kind of causes that, you know? Like,
But to your point, you could still do that. And instead of being like, hey, you're actually hurt, like, we need you out of the program for whatever, you could be like, hey, we want to do this with you. You're going to be off TV for 2 months, off house shows for 2 months. In that time, you know, kind of do your thing. And you could tell them to work on their moves, but, like, they should be able to be like, all right, cool, you know what? I got 2 months off. I'm going to heal up a little bit, and maybe I'm going to work on doing another secondary move. Maybe I'm going to work on this. Like, it adds... and it's I feel like it's so easy for them to do that because you don't need everybody... Like, they don't even show everybody on every show now. And, like, the roster is so deep and so strong. Like, exactly to your point, you could very easily be like, you know, let's give Ambrose, like, 2-3 months off, and then we'll just bump up, you know, Ziggler to, like, his kind of spot in the mid-card. And then, A, you see what you got with Ziggler. B, you already have your main idea that you're running with Ambrose, and then you're good. But, again, that requires planning, long-term booking, vision, and then the care for the product. And one, I don't think they're capable of it at this point. And two, I guess why would I be if I were them?
Yeah, I don't know if I
I'm
was
making
them,
money hand over fist.
exactly.
Why am I going to listen to what these two dudes are telling me? Oh, your product sucks. Well, I have $1 gajillion and 90 houses all over the world, so I think I'm doing okay.
Yeah, no, I know. It's just like, I think of it, I was I was thinking of it more like a defensive line in football. It's like it's great, I guess, if you have Von Miller on every single play, but when you can like rotate guys in and out, like the Phillies did, like
Giant Super Bowl teams.
like it's like a
When the
Giants
when the
Super
when the
Team, the
Phil,
Eagles.
when the Phillies did when they won the Super Bowl
Exactly. Yeah. Sorry about
with
that.
Roy Halladay.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, man. They just rotated. No, but I mean, keep people fresh, right? And then it's like, whoa, this has like more of an impact when you're keeping people fresh rather than, same old thing. People are kind of getting tired. Yada yada.
Well, that's the model for a lot of stuff. That's the model for successful soccer teams. That's the model for running backs nowadays. Like, look at pitching rotations. The teams that win the World Series have tremendous depth in their bullpen and their starting rotations. So it's like, yeah, I can give you, maybe this guy can give me 5 really solid innings, or maybe I got these 3 really good guys and I'm going to have them give you 3 innings each, and they're going to, like, each one of them's going to kill it. If you have that depth and that rotation, I feel like, yeah, you should definitely use it. It keeps, and then it also, not only do you build those depth guys and those rotation guys, but in the same token, you give those top guys rest. Like, imagine, again, to your point, like, Von Miller in the fourth quarter when he's played 97% of the snaps up to that point versus Von Miller in the third quarter when he's only played 65 or 70% of the snaps. Oh my God, like, if you've got a third down in the fourth quarter and you have a fresh Von Miller coming off the edge versus a Von Miller that has literally been getting hit on every single play because he's been in for almost every single play, those are different things. The only thing you just have to have is you have to have that depth and to have that rotation. And that's why WWE frustrates me even more, because they have the depth and they have such a wealth of talent and ability on that roster, and it's just like going to waste. Like, they have these 5-star chefs in the kitchen, and instead they're just like, no, I want pizza rolls.
Yeah. I was also thinking,
But if
like,
I had like a 6-pack and could bench 500 pounds and all I was eating is pizza rolls, I'd probably just keep eating pizza rolls.
if you could.
Yeah, and if my cholesterol were like great and I was showing up everything on my vitals, I would probably just be like, no, I'm gonna have pizza rolls, thanks though.
Yeah, it's just going to be a really hard
I love pizza
change.
rolls.
And yeah, apparently. And I don't think it has to change that. Obviously, the NXT model is not like that. They're running shows a lot. They're doing what they have more. They just have less shows to deal with, and they can kind of think about their storylines more in depth. And
they do, and it works.
And funny enough, because WWE steals from them, and like you think of it like, oh man, now they're going up to do nothing. It actually keeps them pretty fresh, because it's
yeah, and it forces them to be fresh, because it's like, well, we
guess
just
what?
lost
If Finn Balor was still there, he'd probably still be the goddamn champion, or at least like in the conversation. There's nowhere else to go. So, and then all these other guys would just be like, well, sorry, I mean, all these other guys are on top. So
yeah, and it forces them to do that. I was going to say the exact same thing, like, because they have less depth and work a different schedule, it forces them to be like, well, we have to have the right booking, the right planning, let's do this. Okay, this guy's going to go up to the main roster at this point, so we need to have this guy ready in this. It forces them to be that way, and I guess desperation is like the best motivator, but I think WWE could easily be in that same spot, because they have so mumuch talent that gives them more leeway to kind of play around and do whatever. But which you would think, because they're going to continue to make money no matter what, they like it. Like, it's not even to the point that they're like, Vince should be like, well, if we do that, we might not be making money. No, the product sucks, so obviously you're going to make money no matter what. Why not take a couple risks and make the product better? Worst case scenario is it stays the same, or maybe gets a little worse, but it's obviously not going to affect the money, because the money keeps coming in no matter what.
Yeah, but they don't know that the money doesn't get affected, and it's like, it's not just like, oh, well, Vince takes a hit. It's like, you got to justify that to like a board of directors.
Do you think Vince McMahon is sitting back and is like, we put out a really good product every week? Or do you think he's like, it doesn't matter what we do, we're going to print money?
I don't think either of those things is what he thinks. I just think he's trying to, I think in his head, he's just trying to put out the best thing he can while sustaining what they have. If that kind of makes sense. It's like,
that makes sense.
It's like, okay, like, creatively, like I'm gonna try and do some stuff, but really, what matters is just that our stock price remains the same and or goes up. And the build out, and the thing is like the globalization of like WWE, I'm sure is more on his mind. Like the building out of these things, it's just like there's so many more things that got put on his and all their plates, I guess, with like, oh, we're gonna build out this network that sort of, doesn't have a good template model. I know MLB had something, but not to this scope.
Right.
And oh, we want to, reach out to China, we want to reach out to Saudi, all this kind of like all these kind of factors that went in, and now it's like, oh, we have a show too, oh, okay, it's like not on the I don't think it's on the top echelon of like priorities, and I guess that's the main problem, right? Is like that it is the shows and maybe the product is like not the main priority. It's like a middle priority or kind of put on the back burner because they're always like working on new things.
Why
like,
is wrestling different in that regard? Like, and if it is it because of the fan base? So like I'm thinking like the
fan base is weird.
What other thing? Definitely weird. What other thing? I guess we'd have to compare it to TV. I guess because like if you have a TV show that sucks and people think the show sucks, they're not going to watch the show anymore. But there are so many people who think WWE sucks and continue to watch it, pay hundreds of dollars in merch and tickets. Like, is it because of
it's kind of like
fan base? I just don't get it. Like, who would... Like, nobody's going to be like, oh, well, this show sucks, let me tune in and watch it every week. No, they're going to be like, this show sucks, I'm not watching it anymore. Like, if The Big Bang Theory sucks, nobody's watching The Big Bang Theory. But if Raw sucks, everybody is apparently still watching it. Like, why?
It's like you had a TV show that was very good in the beginning, and it got, like, clout and, like, recognition. And maybe you watched it from the beginning, so you feel some type of way. And you're kind of like... oh, well, you know what? I've been on this, blah, blah, blah. So you don't have that, oh, no, I need to step away. This is bad. Like that when it gets like bad, you got to like step away.
Don't people do that with TV shows?
No, I mean, somewhat. It might be easier
because that's why shows get canceled.
It's also a little easier, I think, with TV to kind of fall off because you have seasons. So you have this long break where people can reevaluate if they really want to watch the show or not.
That's true.
And this doesn't have any of that. This doesn't have like an evaluation period. Where
Wait, so you think it's because people don't get the time to evaluate? Do you think if they did have the time to evaluate, would people stop watching wrestling or WWE because the product is bad?
No, because there's like a nostalgia factor about it. Like there's like. So
that's the reason, the nostalgia?
I really think so.
Because I'm very nostalgic in general, not just for wrestling, but things in general. But I don't watch it because it sucks.
I think it's like I know you're just getting hit in the face over and over again with like, this is not good. I understand that. But there's always this like pining for like, oh, but something might happen. It's like, or, oh, you're always kind of, you want to maybe be there for like that thing, or you want to be like, this is the start of something, like say with the Kevin Owens thing, or like when, when, I don't know, somebody has a good promo, or like, somebody has a really good match on Raw, which is like kind of rare that they get time.
Which is like once every other year.
Yeah, just because they don't get the time and stuff, it's like that, I don't know.
I just find it so weird from
there's like I guess maybe this week kind of attitude about things.
Yeah,
well, maybe this week.
It's just such a weird being like active on like Reddit as I am, and like I know sports are different, but like people will complain about their sports team, but it's like a different feeling, so people keep coming back. But I go on like Squared Circle so much, and everybody just like, don't know why I tuned in again this week. This show sucks. Blah blah blah. I don't know what they're doing. Blah blah blah. And then like the next week it's the same thing. So my thought is like, why watch it? And it's the same thing with like when I go to a New Japan show or a Ring of Honor show and I hear like we were in line when we were in San Francisco waiting for when we were in line. There were these dudes in front of us who we were talking to a little bit, and then we heard their conversation first and was talking about, yeah, like WWE sucks or this and that, and like how bad it is. Like this G1 show is going to be great. You know, I can't wait. Oh, they're coming back in October. It was all like pro New Japan, and like even worse than I am about. Well, I don't really broadcast openly to anyone about that I don't like WWE, only to my close personal confidants such as yourself.
And everybody on the podcast.
Yeah, and everybody, all the fans that listen, which we have a ton of because we're super popular with this podcast. But yeah, these dudes were like super pro New Japan, super anti WWE, and then their conversation ended with how we were talking about like New York because they were like, oh, you guys are from New York, blah blah blah, and then they were like, yeah, we bought our tickets for SummerSlam, super pumped, and I was just like, what? Like and they were from the West Coast, they were from San Fran, and we're gonna fly. So not only are they spending like WWE ticket money, they gotta book flights and hotel, and maybe again I don't know their story. Maybe like someone knows somebody in the fucking Southwest Airlines or some crap, and their flights are free or their hotel is free. I don't know, but they talked for 10 minutes about how the product sucks and how much they hate it and how much of a joke it is. And you're gonna fly to the other side of the country and pay probably at least $1,000 to go watch something that you think sucks. Like, I don't find that, especially like TV isn't even like the same comparison because granted you pay for cable, but you don't have to pay X amount of dollars to like watch that show. And these guys are over here talking about how it sucks, and they're literally going to pay to go watch something that they think sucks. And
I know, but it's
weird to me.
My thing is just it's the clout behind it. It's the clout and the nostalgia. Like SummerSlam or WrestleMania, it's like why people will still go see Tom Cruise movies and like Will Smith movies and like anything Denzel puts out, even though Denzel's awesome.
His own
like,
movies are all the same.
It's just like name recognition. Like even somebody like Adam Sandler or like Michael Myers.
Those movies suck.
Like what has like say Adam Sandler's a good case. Has he really put out anything of note in the last 20 years or something like that?
When you say note, you mean like quality product? No.
Right. But his
Jack and Jill was great.
Name value, very high. Still gets paid top dollar. And still revered-ish in the industry.
Yeah.
As a solid comedian. I mean, he got that Netflix deal.
Oh, that's right. He did get that.
So to me, it's just like some people are just living, some people end up living off of name value. And like WrestleMania, WWE, SummerSlam, things like that, it's kind of an automatic for some people. It doesn't even matter. Like, it doesn't matter what the card is, For for WrestleManias, like, it really doesn't matter what the card is. Like, people are going to go regardless. Now, are they going to get the number? It's like, are we going to hit a 94,000, whatever they want? Like, that might be card dependent, and how many eyeballs and who's facing who. But I would say baseline, you think there's always going to be 50,000 people at WrestleMania, regardless. They don't care about the card. They just want it's the experience.
But that's my thing. Like, why are they? Then why? I get it and I understand it. Then why complain so much about the product or like why does that nostalgia, you're not going to get the nostalgia part. Like if you loved wrestling in the 90s, you're not going to go to the show now and feel how you did. Like you're not capturing that. I
don't know, maybe you are
at
a bigger show though.
Does that nostalgia only exist for wrestling fans? I feel like it's very prevalent in that community.
Do
you think it's more prevalent in like the wrestling fan community than it is in other fandom communities?
That's a weird question.
Yeah, I didn't know how to phrase it.
No, I mean, I think it's like, I think movie stars is a good thing, a good like example. It's just, I don't know if it's.
But even in that same token, the people who are like going to see the Denzel movie, who are going to see like the 15th Equalizer, aren't like, well, Denzel sucks and this movie's gonna suck, but I'm going to see it. Whereas wrestling fans are like, this sucks, I hate it, I'm going to see it. That's what I find weird. Like, why rake it over the coals and then continue to shill for it?
Yeah, but like, say all your friends are going or whatever. It's like, I don't know.
Yes,
I
but
don't.
all your
I don't want
friends
them to
aren't.
say like, say all your friends always go see Medea movies or something like that, and it's like, dude, these movies are horrible. Why do I have to keep going? Well, it's like, oh, okay, another one came out. Okay, all these. I don't know. Some
Yes,
like
but they're
weird
not
peer
going to
pressure
the
to it.
but they're not going to the Medea movie, critiquing everything of it and talking about how it could be better and why it sucks. Like even
No,
if they
maybe
go
afterwards
knowing,
they're like, see, that sucked.
yeah, but they
We
knew. But
shouldn't
if
go
they
to the
knew,
next one. Maybe
I
I
don't
don't know.
think that
Maybe
happens.
maybe it does though. Like that was not good. We should not go to the next one. And it's like, okay, time. All right, maybe this one's fine.
It's so weird for me because even like sports are the same thing. Like you get diehard fans, but like attendance drops and merch sales decrease if your team sucks. And WWE,
I'm sure their merch sales go down. It's hard because they don't. I mean, I know they're public, but they really don't. At least in my view, I haven't really looked into it, but they don't give really specific details on their merch.
but I
So
mean they so I'm going off of just the pure things that we know, and I'm thinking about like that Fox deal. Like Fox obviously bought them thinking like, oh, this is a big deal. Oh, speaking of that, you remember how we were talking about like we can imagine on Sundays, like Troy Aikman mentioned something about like wrestling and like the thing
yeah, yeah,
popping
yeah, of
up.
course.
They did that on the Sunday during the Bills Bengals game on Fox. They did that
For SummerSlam or
for
for something else.
somebody meant. I don't remember exactly what it was. Somebody like used a word that's like used in wrestling, and the main announcer was like, "Oh, that was a pretty good tie-in." You know that. You know, WWE's coming to Fox. You're smart, blah, blah. And they started talking about it. And I
I
was
mean,
like,
yeah,
son
that's
of a
what's gonna
bitch.
happen.
It happened in preseason football.
Like, oh, that looked like a clothesline. Speaking of clotheslines,
Have you seen Roman Reigns?
yeah, like,
Talk about it, Troy. Yeah, and
did Cam Newton just punch that guy? We'll talk about a Superman punch.
Superman, here he is. I just don't get attendance will dwindle or merch sales go down for like a pro sports team or people stop
Yeah,
watching the TV show and it gets canceled. But WWE apparently like no one stops going to the shows. No one
Hey,
stops buying
but
merch.
have we dug? To be honest, we have not dug into house shows. Like, I haven't done the research in saying that house shows aren't like, I don't know, are they steady? Are they worse than they were 2 or 3 years ago? Are they better than they are 2 years ago? I couldn't
But
tell
if
you
it was
that.
a large scale problem, wouldn't we see more of a problem in pay per view attendance or like like TV show attendance? Like, wouldn't if there was a real problem, wouldn't Fox be like, no, we're not buying this? Wouldn't a main like not only did Fox buy it, they shelled out a boatload of cash for it. Like, wouldn't if it was a real problem, wouldn't they be like, no, we're not buying this? Like, if they were the Browns. Like, I feel like the product that
No, I'm not
WWE
saying
puts
it's not
out,
the my generation, even though whatever. It's not the what is that?
WWE's product is equivalent to what the Browns have been on the field for the last 2 years. Fox isn't buying the Browns, but they bought WWE.
What's that? It was not my generation. It's what was that? New generation?
You're
It's
thinking of
not.
D-Generation X.
No. I'm thinking of new generation.
You mean Rick Rude, Shawn Michaels? Yeah,
No.
D-Generation X.
No.
I am being sarcastic. How are you
I
not picking
understand.
this up?
No, but like that was the worst time for them before, they ended up, with all the, weird characters and stuff. And I guess Brett was on top, obviously.
Right.
And then they ended up going into, but they were losing like house show attendance. They were losing all attendance, yada, yada. I think right now, from all indications, you just go by like their stock price. And I guess you can go in their financials if you really want to, but it seems steady. And the thing on Fox is, you're trading the deal isn't like you're basically trading UFC for WWE. UFC is a little oversaturated too in my book with the fight nights and how they schedule things, and I just don't think they are so top heavy and reliant on a few individuals that WWE looks way better in comparison to me, only because, say, okay, one Saturday a month, we're going to have this on, and it's going to be maybe one guy that the general public knows and these other 11 matches, similar to like boxing, I guess. Whereas in this situation, you're going to get continuous new product on every week. like so it's not once a month. And I don't know. I just feel like the revenue and the revenue generation for a commercial and for just everything, I mean, would be better on that. Like merch wise, just everything. They would out earn UFC. I know UFC just got bought for a lot
Right, but
of
that still
money and
means like the people are paying for to like that fan base of wrestling is continuing to pay and sustain WWE. Like I just don't get how that continues to happen when there's no like even the circus died out. Like people don't go to the traveling circus as much anymore. Like maybe it's a destination in Vegas and they'll go see it, but like it's not people aren't turning out to come see like the circus in their
Yeah, but
like
Fox's
local
deal
town.
has nothing to do with the house shows. The house shows, I don't even know. Not that I don't know, because they can. I was gonna
No,
say I
I'm
don't
not
know
saying
where
it
they
has to
have
do with the
them
house shows.
because I know they don't like make a ton of money.
Right.
It keeps the wrestlers like traveling a lot more days on the road. Like I think they just have to lessen up on the house shows. Before it was just for publicity
Right.
because you didn't have social media. You
Yeah,
didn't use
basically
like
advertising.
yeah, it was like, oh, we never see, they come to our town once a year, and that's when we go, kind of thing.
But
And
my
that's
thing is,
always been the model.
if with how bad the product is on camera, and it is, shouldn't the company be more affected than on just a house show level? Like, and maybe it is. Maybe we're not seeing the hard camera side, and there's like nobody on that side of the arena or something. But with how bad the product is, shouldn't it affect? Like the sports equivalent is like, yeah, maybe people aren't going to the preseason game, but if your team sucks, they're not going to the regular season games either. And
No,
in
but
WWE, yeah, like the house shows are the preseason, so attendance can be iffy there. But they're showing up for the regular season game no matter how bad the team is, and that's what I find weird.
our
Because
eight,
again, you don't see it in anything else. You don't see it in sports. You don't see it in TV or other media platforms. I don't. It's interesting.
I just feel like our age group is not the ones that are propping this company up. Like,
But the okay, so it's kids. But don't shouldn't the parents? Wouldn't the parents be like, no, this sucks. We're not going.
no, what do parents get? What do parents get dragged to all the time? God damn, how many parents do you think are dragged to like Ariana Grande concerts and all this stuff? Like, you can't when I don't know, it's hard to describe.
But isn't that more of a limited thing? Isn't like she's
You're
not
not gonna win.
touring
You're
once a
not gonna
week.
win in this argument against a kid most of the time. Like it's one of those ones you would give into because you're willing to win something else.
I'm telling my kid to be better. If he's like, hey, I want to go to Raw, I'm going to be like, hey, you need to be better.
Yeah, you say that now, but you don't have a kid,
You're
so
right. But
yeah,
I
we'll see.
know
We'll
that.
see. No, okay, granted, but we'll see when that actually like comes to fruition.
When you talk to me like 10 years from now and you're like, Anthony, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm going to Europe to see
Exactly.
WWE.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, because it's just a different dynamic. I don't know. It's just like, oh, okay, like, sure, we can do this because then I'm gonna say no to this. I don't know if it's like,
Sure, we're going to WWE, but you got to eat your green beans. That's what they're trading it for?
no. I mean, it's obviously maybe a bigger trade, or just
Oh,
like,
bigger
I
trade?
don't
Oh, so like peas.
know. It's just a lot of things. You don't want to like maybe like disappoint your kids by saying like, oh no, we can't go, or
Well, the kid
like,
has disappointed me by saying he likes WWE.
there's a reason. There's a reason the kids drive this business, man. It's not like, and from a parent end, it's not like, oh, okay, at least we get out of the house and he's not freaking playing Fortnite for like 6 hours. Like, there's worse alternatives, I guess. Like,
That's true.
at least we're spending time together. We're doing an activity. We're not just staring at the television. We're not just like shooting other people on a screen.
No, we're going to go to
Like,
this event and watch this carny bullshit
yeah,
and pay a bunch of money for it.
yeah, basically. At least it's like a sort of family activity. I just think like, you know, they're the drivers of this right now.
Did you happen to yeah, I agree with all that. I just find it perplexing.
I
Did
know.
you happen to see or read anything about Triple Mania over the weekend?
No, not at all.
It was, you know what Triple Mania is, yeah?
Yes, I do.
I know like some things here and there. Like I know Pentagon wrestles in it,
Yep.
and I know the whole like I know certain dudes in the whole like mask versus mask matches and all that stuff. But the main event had La Parka in it, which
Yeah, but he's a huge name.
yeah, I didn't know he was still kicking, and
Yeah,
he cut like a real legit promo at the end, and then like another. It was nuts. There was blood and fire and chaos, and one of the main event guys, his name is Psycho Clown, and like he had these giant like foam. He came out like he looked like John Cena on acid, like a clown, super colorful, but he had these like like the foam Hulk hands.
Yep.
He had those, but they were like the when you put like your like the rock sign symbol, you put like your middle finger and your ring finger in and stick out like your thumb pointer, and like so the hands were like that, but they shot flames out of the pinky and the pointer finger, and he was doing it like going down the ramp and got really close to like the people with it and almost like lit a kid on fire. Like it was chaos. Like I don't watch AAA regularly. I know some of the stuff, but it was a spectacle, and I don't know how great it would be watching it regularly, and I don't know how it stacks up versus like other Triple Manias, but it was like a raging good time. I just came, and Twitch broadcast it for free online, which was awesome. So I saw like a decent amount of it, and it was it was pretty nuts, and I was just really.
I mean, none of that really surprised me. I mean, anything can happen in goddamn Mexico. I mean,
it was.
It's always wild.
And like the refs are like normally heels. Like this ref kept like attacking La Parka, and it was just all like very chaotic and crazy. And then with the blood and the fire, and yeah, it really like gave me like the vibe of just like, well, anything can happen in Mexico, I guess.
Yeah, it's just wild. So no, I haven't watched one in forever, but yeah,
I've seen some here and there just because I think they've been doing it on Twitch for the last like 2 years, maybe.
Okay.
And I saw last year's when Psycho Clown beat Dr. Wagner Jr., who was like this legend dude, and like beat him mask versus mask. So like Wagner had like lost his mask and was gone, and then he came back at the end of this to challenge La Park. It's a very Rock CM Punk scenario. Dr. Wagner came out and basically talked shit to La Parka and challenged him for next year's Triple Mania.
Okay.
And I guess it's like a big deal because I think they have like a little bit of like real life beef, and they really don't like each other. And the crowd seemed like very interested. It was just nuts to see, like, I don't know. It seemed pretty good. It made me want to be like, should I start watching AAA? And I don't know if I'm gonna, but it was wild, man. Like that, yeah. Mexican wrestling, and like it was crazy. This guy, he had flames coming out of his like Hulk hands.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are better things to spend time watching, I guess. I don't know. I think there's probably
Not many.
better things. Maybe there is. I don't know. How's Lucha doing nowadays?
I don't know. I saw Lucha here and there.
Did you never get into it?
I saw a lot of, as it was like being filmed and coming out before it was on Netflix, I saw a lot of things on like the internet, like different episodes and like things about it. So I saw a lot of the big highlights, and I started watching season 1, and yeah, I never got into it like too much. I think because a lot of the dudes that I would see there, like I knew, oh, Prince Puma's Ricochet, I can see him in New Japan, or like, oh, Pentagon is like sweet and Phoenix is there, but I can see them in PWG or like in different, or on Impact or in like AAA, stuff like that. So I don't think I ever got into it too much. I think the concept was cool. I thought some of the stunts and things that they did were really cool, but yeah, I don't know why I never really got into it too much.
Yeah. All right, to take this in a completely different direction. I just got an updated card for Hell in a Cell.
Yep.
And I'm wondering why. It's kind of just weird to me. I guess it's because they didn't have anything for them, but like a match type. But wouldn't you think that AJ and Joe would be in a Hell in a Cell? Or
it is.
No.
They're not in the cell?
Nope. So
I'm angry.
Yep. Wouldn't you think Joe or AJ would be in the cell? Or maybe Becky and Charlotte, because okay, we can do a second one, right?
Braun
second
and Roman's in the cell, right?
Braun and Roman are in the cell.
Fucking course it is.
Braun and Roman are in a cell, right? Why? No reason. Don't have a blood feud. Don't have anything of that nature. In the other Hell in a Cell match, there's another one, and it's Randy and
Oh,
Jeff.
oh, I can see that.
I could see that because of where they went with like, oh, Randy's gonna pull out my earrings.
Yes.
But
Ah, my ears.
doesn't Joe and AJ warrant a Hell in a Cell
I
match
thought that was
after what's been going
guaranteed.
on?
I thought two things. I thought one, AJ's gonna lose to Joe the second time they fought. And once I knew the next pay per view was Hell in a Cell, I know that I had mentioned that I thought Joe was gonna win at SummerSlam. But then once I knew the next pay per view was Hell in a Cell, I was like, okay, AJ beats Joe at SummerSlam. Joe wins the second match. It'll be a feud. It'll be at Hell in the Cell. Joe wins. And the first thing I thought was they'd be in the cell. I assumed it was in the cell. I didn't even know until literally right now that it wasn't. And I don't understand why it's not. Like, I get Jeff and Randy being in the cell. I don't get why Roman versus Braun should be in the cell over Joe and AJ. Or why can't you just have 3 matches in a cell? The pay-per-view is called Hell in a Cell. Shouldn't like every match be in the cell?
No, that's not the gimmick, I don't think.
Shouldn't they all be in a cell?
No, that's not how it goes. But I just don't.
I
like
don't
that.
understand.
I don't. I get it. It's like that's your top title. Okay, so it's got to be in the match of which the pay per view is named.
But isn't the WWE Championship, shouldn't that be more important than the Universal title?
No, that's not how it is now, man.
Oh my god.
But it's like, okay, you're doing a Money in the Bank cash in, a non-surprise Money in the Bank cash in on a feud that's really not. I mean, okay. I mean,
And don't even get me started on that feud.
The feud, okay, it had its things. Whatever, we're gonna basically turn over whatever we can turn over Titantron, turn over an ambulance, turn over whatever we can turn over.
And now they're trying to make Braun the heel though, and we got to bring the Shield back for a cheap pop to get people to like Roman. And then my initial thing, you and I talked about it over text. I immediately, not that I don't like, I was like, oh shit, like, are they gonna have Bray and Harper help out Braun? So I was like, that would be sick. And then on Raw, not that I don't like Drew and Dolph, but I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, Drew and Dolph are gonna help Braun equalize the Shield, and it's not gonna be Bray and Harper?
Maybe, you know what?
The fuck?
You know what? Obviously, Bray and Harper makes sense. It doesn't. Rowan's out.
Yes.
No one would give 2 shits if Luke Harper showed up on Raw.
No, and because it would be, first of all, they wouldn't give a shit because they don't care about consistency.
Correct.
2,
and
everybody would pop. Yeah, it's awesome as shit. Nobody would care.
Maybe. See, this is the thing. This is why people keep watching.
Just like nobody cared that
This is why people keep watching, because you're like, well, maybe they'll come out in Hell in a Cell and ruin it, and Braun will win because Bray, blah, blah, blah. It's because people in their own mind kind of like write the story and they fantasy book for themselves. True. Yeah. And then you watch and you're like, oh, that didn't happen. So then you just continue.
Damn it, that's why. I think that's why. Like, I've gotten too jaded to the point. Like, when I saw the Shield come out last week to help out Reigns, my first thought was like, of course they're going to bring out the Shield to try and give Reigns the rub. And then 2, I was like,
doing T-shirts for every city.
Yep, saw that. Well, got to capitalize on that merch. Got to capitalize on the merch. But the other thing I thought of was, does Rollins always carry his Shield outfit with him in addition to his regular outfit?
I know, full complete change. I thought he was going to dye his hair and have the streak.
Like, that's what I thought too. Like, I was just like, is he always prepared? And you know what else was I thought of a thing. So on Monday, last night's episode, like, they all got beat to shit, right? But Rollins and Ambrose came out one by one to help out Reigns. And I started thinking from like a kayfabe perspective. Because anytime someone comes out to make the save like that, especially on Monday, like, their music hit. So does Ambrose, when in kayfabe, like, as he's coming to help his buddy, does he run up to Gorilla and is like, hey, I'm going out there, play my music, and they play his music? Or does he go running by Gorilla to run out, and then the guy's like, oh shit, let me hit his music?
Yeah, that's what should happen.
Which is it? Is like, or is it, yeah, like, I just thought it from
like a
Gorilla
that's not what happens. I mean, nowadays, it's not like that. You know how, I guess this happened in the 90s, but I think back it happened in like the 80s too, just because I ended up watching a lot of like 80s, 90s stuff, where sometimes when there's a run-in, you'd only kind of know it by the crowd,
Yes,
you know?
100%. Because they
And
would all
that,
stand up and be like, "Oh," and you'd be like, "Oh shit, what's happening?"
and the camera wouldn't get it right away or
Yes,
something like
it was
that. And it
awesome.
was like, whoa, whoa. Yeah, and that just does not happen. It's like
No,
a
now they hit their
meditated,
music.
like, you know, dunna, dunna,
Oh.
whatever. Like, it's just like always like, and then everyone stops in the ring because the music is so,
And that's not a thing I would want
it
to do.
shocks
Like,
me.
if I was
It
going to,
shocks me.
if I was going to help out my buddy, I wouldn't want to be like, "Announce me."
Yeah, please announce me.
Yeah, I would just be like, "Oh shit, let me get out
Oh,
there."
no.
And
I
also,
mean, he's getting injured, but my music's more important.
yeah, like you need to play my tape. And also with the Shield thing, I don't get why they came out through the regular entrance and not through the crowd.
Then it's funny because that they would probably justify by saying like, "Oh, but they were going to help Roman."
And they took
So
too
they had to
long.
get out because they had to get out there as fast as possible. And it's like, well, why did you play the music then?
Right, that's exactly it. So they had to get
That
out
is
there
exactly
fast.
how they would explain it.
They had to get out there fast, so they couldn't go down the stairs through the crowd. But they had enough time to stop at Gorilla to tell them to play their music.
Right.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where it goes. But I'm even in that boat a little bit too. Like after you text me, I was definitely like, oh man, like if Bray and Harper equalized, like that would be sick. And if they did something at Hell in the Cell, like that would be sick. Especially with Braun giving the line of like, oh, I'm gonna do it where like your buddies can't get in, so we're gonna do it in the cell, blah blah blah. That'd be sweet. Like if his buddies got in, but you know, I don't hold out hope for this. Yeah.
Why don't we try to everyone tries to, like fantasy book and it's nice and like, oh, this, be a good thing or this would be good. Let's just try to think of the worst angle because then really you're not too disappointed with
The worst angle is Karen Angle.
No, well, well, I'm just like, oh, okay. So what's the kind of, okay, so
You want to do that right now?
Braun versus, no, I'm just like, don't think of it like, okay, and then he's going to show up and then he's going to show up. Be like, no, none of that's going to happen. You know what? Roman's going to retain clean and there's going to be no interference and it's going to be like kind of a 2.5, 3-star. And it's like, that's just where you got to go in with it.
That would be bad. And then
that's what you do.
They do some other angle where somehow Owens got his hand on like the Money in the Bank briefcase or something extra, and he comes out and Roman beat Braun, but he's like exhausted from it. They're lifting the cell. Owens comes out to cash in or does something and gets a match, and Reigns rolls him up for the 3.
That's awesome. Yeah.
That would be probably pretty bad.
I never like the premeditated Money in the Banks. I know they have to switch it up, and it's like that's how it is. But you're not gonna get, you don't get a Money in the Bank moment with those kind of like the premeditated ones.
No, but I like it for posterio's sake, which is like, oh, okay, like well, let's
you like
do
it in this
something
case?
different.
In this case, it's no, I get it. Yeah, you change it up or whatever.
Especially with how they're trying to make Braun out to be, which is like, I guess still the monster who does what he wants and is like, hey, I'm going to beat you at this place at this time because I know I can, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, that works, right?
So I think it works. But yeah, I definitely like I like believing that the product is real. So I like the very much non-telegraphed aspect of it. Like, I want to forget that Braun has the Money in the Bank briefcase until like a random Raw in December and his music hits and you're like, oh shit, he's got the briefcase.
Have they ever, I mean, I guess they never would, but have they ever tried to cash it in on a house show?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't think so. Well,
That
no,
would
because they
never
don't do...
happen, but...
Well, AJ won the U.S. title on a house show?
Yeah, but at Madison Square Garden.
Kevin Nash won the title from Backlund at a house show in the Garden.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, the title, yeah.
So, yeah, I don't think...
It would only happen, obviously, in the Garden, I guess.
That would be sweet if it was like a cash-in in like Des Moines, Iowa.
Or even like, even a fake cash-in for just storyline purpose or something. Like they filmed it and then they showed it on Raw like, oh, they were gonna... And, Ambrose and Seth were at the other show or whatever, like play it like that, like, oh, I'm gonna cash in because these guys are on the other loop.
That would be sweet. Yeah, like they split up the show and they went, or especially if they did it like, you could get some really good like overseas buzz like that if it was like, they split the show up in England and half the roster was in Birmingham and the other half was in London, and Braun cashed in London because Rollins and Reigns weren't in London, or Rollins and Ambrose weren't in London with Reigns, blah blah blah. Like that would be really cool. But again, to your point.
Oh, you know what really could have worked then if they wanted it? Okay, I don't know why I'm doing this to myself.
Yeah, I was gonna say, stop. This is like when you came up with those sweet ideas for what Undertaker could do at Mania, and we were like, that'll be awesome, and none of that happened, and it was god awful.
You know what would have been cool? And if this situation was almost reversed back to like Raw 25, where they had the 2 shows in Brooklyn and Manhattan, and like Seth and Dean were happened to be in like Manhattan or something like that, but Braun was going to cash in Brooklyn, and they had it like the majority of the show was about like Dean and Seth
trying to get down to Brooklyn,
getting to Brooklyn, so like that he wouldn't cash in on Roman.
That would be a cool
That's something
thing
they would have done in the Austin era.
I would like
view the show towards this long story arc that runs
would be
across
awesome.
the whole show.
And then I want real New York things. I want them to get on the train and then like the doors shut and the driver makes like an announcement, but it's all muffled and you can't hear shit. And so Rollins and Ambrose are like, is this train going local or is it going express? Do we need to get out? Like, is this not running on this platform? Is this the uptown or the downtown? Like, I wanted that. Like, wait, the queue is running on the F line. That would be fantastic.
This is now a D train. Oh,
yeah,
God,
right.
Damn
like,
it.
Yeah, like, wait, this train's now going uptown.
Yeah, that used to happen to me on. This is, I mean, nobody knows what we're talking about, but they used to happen to me on the A. It would just turn into an F, and I'd be like,
oh my God,
horrible.
The thing I hate the most on the trains is when I'm waiting for a train.
It's like saying the bus you're taking just turns into another bus in another route. And it's like, we're not going anywhere near where you wanted to go.
It's like being on a plane, and it's like, hey, I know
like,
this.
What?
You're in the middle of the air on a plane, and it's like, hey, we know you're supposed to go to Florida, but we're going to land in Nebraska. And you're like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
I hate when I'm waiting.
You can take the bus from Nebraska. We'll give you a ticket.
We'll give you the ticket. We'll compensate you. I hate when I'm on, like when I'm at 59th or something, and I'm waiting, or on any platform where, like, all the trains run on like one line in one direction. I hate like I'm waiting for a train for a while and then I get on it and then we drive for a minute and then they're like, oh, we're delayed due to train traffic ahead of us. And I'm like, no, you're not. I've been waiting here for 20 minutes. This is the only train that came. There is no train traffic ahead of us. Like, don't lie to me. Like, I know what I see.
Hey man, there might be a sick passenger.
But that's fine. Say sick passenger. Don't give me that bullshit.
Sick passenger is bullshit.
Like, I want to go... Yeah, I feel like sick passengers means, like, the driver put it in park and wants to have a snack.
No. Sick passenger is like someone got stabbed. Like, they'll say, sick passenger. Like,
there's a sick passenger.
He's real sick.
Because he got stabbed in the lungs.
Yeah, because every time that's happened to me... Okay, now we're getting some weird subway conversation. But, like a few times when I've been in a car where something happened. Like, I've been in a car where like a 17-year-old beat up an old white guy. Ooh, and he was like bleeding profusely and his nose was broken.
And they were like, sick passenger?
And he got off at like the next stop and there's just like blood all over the car near his like seat and stuff like that. And they're like, we're stopped for a sick passenger. When the doors open, I was like, yeah, you could say that.
Yeah. In a manner of speaking.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah, I don't believe the MTA. That would be really funny, though. Yeah, Ambrose and Rollins trying to get down to Brooklyn to, like, save Reigns.
Yeah, and that would be, like, a cool story arc. Like, whoa. You know those anticipation story arcs they used to run with, like, The Rock and Austin back in the day when it's, like, they'd be, like, as if, like, Austin was walking in the back for, like, an hour and a half, like, trying to get to the ring. Like, they always used to do that.
Those moments were awesome, and one of my favorite pop moments ever is the whole invasion angle when Austin turns into like old Austin again and he leaves the bar, smashes the pool stick, and then like the Alliance is beating the shit out of Team WWF and Austin pulls up in his truck, gets out and like beats his way to the ring. Like he beats people up in the parking lot, goes to the door, beats people up in the back, makes his way. Like, yeah, those anticipation moments are like friggin' awesome. Yeah, that would be, and it would be a little funny thing too, especially for like, not even just for like New York's sake, but just for like realistic things, because they'd be like, oh shit, we have to get down to
it's almost
Brooklyn.
better like that they're not that it's not so like polished and the same sort of like this segment, this segment,
But
this segment,
that
this
would
segment.
require making you try to make the product better and trying to make us think that the
It's
product is
because they
real,
don't
which
want
they
like
don't.
crazy things, I guess, to happen. But I remember when they used to, shoot actually outside and like, do like real things. Like, there's all those memorable things, like, when Austin threw the belt off the bridge, or like just being outside and actually like the real world and not keeping everything just
Yeah,
right there with the
all
same sort of structure.
yes, all pretty and polished and homogenized and bright and shiny.
Like I still remember there was this storyline where like Dean got on the subway at Atlantic Avenue. Like they were having a show in Barclays. It was a Raw, and I don't know what the storyline
I
was.
feel like
It
I
was
remember this
he
vaguely.
was going somewhere, but I was like, oh, this is different. This is good. Like he's actually like on the subway platform, and
That's
there's
pretty
like
cool.
sort of real people around. So,
It's not just
however,
it's not just a bunch of like NXT Performance Center plants.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know. Those things are more memorable than whatever they usually do.
Well, yeah, it's because the product sucks.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this got off track.
Oh, I get it because we were talking about trains.
Thanks for listening to this random wrestling episode. If you like the episode, please rate and review us on iTunes or Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you're listening to this. Follow us on Instagram at AA Talk Stuff. Also on Twitter, Facebook. DM us, email us with any questions or any topics you have for the future. And as always, we'll see you next week. I hope so.